Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Valkyrie Everder. It's Valkyrie of the Veil. Sometimes I can be so dramatic with the intro, but you know what? We're here. It is. Today we're talking about Mars and protection magic. How do you use your Mars to protect yourself? What do you need to look out for in terms of like enemies, strategizing, victory, battle, war? Mars is a big spirit. So we're going to talk about it. But before we get into the details, before we get into the specifics, some updates for you as we move on through. I have been back on the content game recently. I have been working on releasing more stuff. There's some things on the back end that are still getting sorted out when it comes to website structures and whatnot, but for the most part, we're back on the internet. We're back doing the thing. So if you want to sign up for blog updates and email updates, those are going to be linked in the description below. I'm also going to include in the description below my NFT collection if you're looking at becoming an investor. And you know what? I love you for sitting here and spending time with me. That's true. Got the hardcover and the hardback versions on Barnes & Noble for both the books that I currently have published. Book of Spells 1, Poetry to Educate the Witch. Love that. And Norse Magic Book 1, The Runes, which is, it goes over every single rune. If you're interested in those, I'll also leave them in the description below. Any other updates that are important will be down there, so go check it out if you're interested. I'm pretty sure that's it. So let's talk about Mars. Let's talk about Mars. Let's talk about Mars. So the house that Mars is in your chart is the house that attracts enemies. That's the house where you need to be strategizing, keeping up on boundaries, making sure that you have your resources protected, because that's part of Mars, is having resources protected. Mars, the god, we normally think about Mars, the spirit, the god, as a spirit who is of battle, victory, war, strategy, tactics, and tools of those sorts of structures. However, why would you go into battle? Normally to protect something. Normally you're going in to protect something. Mars is the protector. Mars is, yes, strategizing, victory, all of those things, but Mars is the protector. So if there is something to protect, if people are able to identify that you have something to protect, if you have something that's valuable, Mars is the area in your chart where you want to make sure for yourself that you're guarded, that you're warded, that you're protected, that everything's boarded, that you got boundaries up around you. Yes. If you are wondering, Mars is like pretty basic protections too. There's a lot of different energies that you can lean into. The sign that rules your Mars is going to be the energy that you need to be in to really be able to strategize, to have those victories, to be able to protect what's important to you. And the energy of your Mars placement, the sign that it's ruled by, that's going to determine really like, how are you thinking about your strategy? How are you going towards your strategy? How are you putting your strategy into action? Now, Mars rules over two different signs. It rules over Aries and it rules over Scorpio. Scorpio also is ruled by Pluto, however, also ruled by Mars. And these are kind of two different extremes of the Mars energy. And in my opinion, the other signs in the zodiac, in our astrology world, are going to be kind of in the middle of these extremes somewhere. The first is Aries. Now, Aries rules the head. It rules our mind. It rules the thoughts. It rules what's going on up in our noggin. It's the stuff that we can't see in other people, but it's there. The secrets, unless we want to share, and then it is. Mars ruling Aries is very much, here's the thought, you got it. Here's the thought, we got to go for it. Aries placements, generally speaking, know how to just like go into it and mess up until they get it right. Like, you're going to go into it, you might lose some stuff. There might be some resources that you've wasted, maybe time that you've wasted, energy that you've wasted, but you're going to figure it out. You learn by trial through experience. That's Mars in Aries. Also, Aries, anything that's ruled by Aries in your chart is going to need that very like quick start. It's going to need a quick start. You need to really like that first instinctual, because Aries is the activation, it's the initiation, it's the beginning. So if you're able to really like, if you're the first person to make a move in a battle, usually you have the upper hand, especially if you're able to just keep on going through. That end of Mars is like, don't think about it, just do it. We'll deal with the consequences later. Mars in Scorpio, the other end of this very extreme space where we have these strategies and battles going on, victories too, true, is Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio, the reason it's on the other extreme end is because a Mars in Scorpio knows how to look at a chessboard and understand every single move that can be made before the game is even played. Mars in Scorpio can tell you who's going to win. Because Mars in Scorpio knows the secrets. They've thought about it. They've sat and they've observed. They've learned the secrets of what's going on in front of them. They know their own darkness also. So they know their weaknesses and their strengths. And they can play the room. They can set up the environment so that they're in the position of victory. The downfalls of that one, because Mars Aries is like, you just got to go into it and figure it out. You can't really hesitate. Mars in Scorpio is different in the sense that you have to sit around and think about it. You have to strategize. You have to really put the pieces together. And the downside to that is that if you take too long to make a move, then it could be a position where you have a downfall because you haven't actually done anything. Like Mars in Scorpio is really, really smart when it comes to the strategic input. But if you don't do anything, somebody else is going to win. That's just what it is. So there's the two extremes of it. And like I said, there's other placements in the middle of them, but that with the other zodiac signs, but that's really, yeah, it is. I was saying earlier how Mars attracts enemies. Like really the reason that the placements in this protection series are mentioned is because they attract some form of enemy or they need some form of extra protection, and that's why they're brought up. But Mars specifically, because Mars is very like swift moving, the strategies, right? It's something that moves a little swifter. It's in the smaller three because there's Mercury that moves very swiftly, Venus moves very quickly, a fair amount of swiftness, and then Mars is one that moves fairly swiftly too. So Mars moves slower than Mercury and Venus, but Mars does move fairly quickly compared to like Neptune, definitely compared to Pluto. It is. So you have a time to kind of like sit and think about it, right? But you do have to move eventually. The reason that Mars attracts enemies is because Mars is your automatic position of power. Saturn in your chart lets you know, like Saturn, Capricorn, Aquarius energy, that lets you know where your position of power can be earned, where you're in a prominent seat. Pluto's gonna let you know about your generational inheritance, your generational power, and the inheritance of your exchanges and contracts in the world. But Mars just says that power's for you. This is without really having to do anything. You're born into this. You're born into this position. You're born into protecting this. You're born into this space and this place where now you are the most important person in this place. If there's more than one, so say that you had a Mars in the 11th house, if there's more than one important person in the room, if there's more than one person in that space, because 11th house has to do with our social interactions, and it has to do, that's true. It has to do with our social interactions, and it has to do with our, even if you had Aries or Scorpio in the 11th house, also valid, because those are Mars as well. So you're meant to be one of the most important. You're just like born into a position of power. You're born into a position of power when it comes to social circles, but that you're probably not the only person in that room who has some sort of Mars energy in their 11th house. If it's a large room of people, a large group of people. And so you would have to know kind of like, how do you run your show? How are you the most important person by not threatening anybody else? And if you are threatening other people, are you doing it on purpose, or do they feel threatened by you because of their own insecurity or their own weakness? Again, the weaknesses and the strengths. So studying the Mars placement, it really is knowing about your weaknesses and your strengths, because if you can understand the weaknesses, if you can understand the darkness, then you're understanding the cost of what that protection will really like pull out of your pocket. In battle, If you don't have enough resource, like say that you need to protect something, but you don't have the resources to actually go into battle, then you're probably not going to go into battle. You're going to figure out how to be an ally to the enemy. I don't like that position, but sometimes it's necessary if you've really like underdone yourself in that area. And if you're able to strategize, well enough, then you're able to turn, you know, those like the trade up. Have you ever seen those things where they trade up, where they're like, I'm going to trade, we're trading this pack of, we're going to see what we can get for this pack of Post-it notes. And we're going to trade this pack of Post-it notes we're going to just see how far we can get. And then they trade it with a whole bunch of people. And like, this will get you like a toy car, and trading a toy car with somebody else because they think it's valuable. And then you're able to trade that toy car for like an old gaming system. And then that old gaming system, you're able to trade for something else that's valuable until you like trade up to like more valuable until like suddenly you're trading somebody for a house or something like that. That's very much, how do I say, Mars in the sense of having to ally in enemy spaces. If you're able to strategize your way out of it without having to get into a fight, that's a W for me. That's what I see. If you're able to strategize without having to ever pull out the weapons or pull out the tools or have to like go into a space where you know that you're going to be in the battlefield, congrats. You have really figured out how to harness that Mars placement for yourself. Because Mars, yeah, it might be about victory, battle, and strategy, but it would rather not fight. It would rather not fight. I would rather not fight too, to be honest with you. I don't know about you, but I know about me. I would rather not fight. I would rather not fight. Don't put me in the middle. Don't put me in the middle of a fight if I don't need to be there. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if you're someone who has prominent Mars placements in your chart, you're born to be some form of leader. You're born to be somebody. You're born to be. It's a birthright. Mars is about your birthright. Usually the person that's leading the army was like a king or a commander of some kind. And that in the olden times was a birthright. So to have there be, it's true. Mars is about protecting those birthrights. It's about protecting your birth. What is your birthright? You really got to break that down, because there's some birthrights that some people are going to find more valuable than other people. That's another part of Mars, is understanding really what is valuable to you. What is valuable to you? Because that is going to influence your strategy of where are you turning to and how are you moving forward. Now, let's talk about, say that you are in the middle of having to come up with a strategy and you're having to really like work through how are you going to get through this battle? How are you going to win something? Also, it doesn't necessarily have to be a battle, although that is applicable. It could be that you need to like strategize for a project, or you're strategizing for a promotion, or your strategy. Okay, anywhere that strategy in your life is actually like is applicable, you're going to look at that Mars placement. So you're looking at the house that it's in. That's the area of life where you need to be so that you can think up the strategy. You got Mars in the first house, you need to be by yourself with yourself. Don't talk to other people. Just go be you, how you need to be. Unless you have prominent 11th house placements, but that's another story. Mars in the second house is about your resources. So really like sitting with your resources and thinking about your money, or thinking about what is your resource and what the sign that rules that house too. Like that's going to let you know the energy of that resource. The third is about communication. So maybe you need to talk through it so you can figure out the strategy. Maybe you don't need to talk to anybody else, but you can make a voice note to yourself. Keep it a secret and keep it sacred. You can make a voice note to yourself. Fourth house, you need to be in the home. Be at home. Be at home. Be in your home space. Be alone in your home space if you're able to. Strategize at your home space. Strategize in your home space, by your home space, with your home space. Also true. Fifth house is going to be with your joy. You need strategy of the heart. Take it to heart. Take it to heart. Strategy of the heart and take it to heart. That's a real personal, things hit deep with Mars in the fifth house, to be honest with you. And then there's sixth house. If you need to strategize, go on a walk. Go on a walk, go work out, make yourself a good meal, sit with how your body feels, stretch, listen to music and dance, do something to get back into your body if you have Mars in the 6th house and you need to strategize. 7th house, intimate mirrors, emotional mirrors, intellectual mirrors, communicative mirrors, okay, our physical mirrors, people who mirror us and the people around us who are mirrors to us. We most commonly associate the 7th house with our intimate partners in life as like our significant other, but that form of intimacy can come through friendships and different areas of such also. So you would need to be in one of those spaces. Also, you could literally stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself and make a video too. Technically, like your phone is a mirror. Hey, hi, hello, you know? So that's also an option. 8th house, you would need to, that one, ooh, you would really need to sit and think about it. That's the thought house. You have Mars in the 8th house, sit and think about it and figure out what contracts you're bound to. That's a contractual house. If you are someone with Mars in the 8th house and you can really figure out what your strengths are and your resources are in that 2nd house reflection, yeah, Mars in the 8th house is a really, really powerful placement. I would not want to be on the wrong side of somebody with Mars in the 8th house. No thanks. No, thank you. Keep it over there. So, we're good. We're good. We're good. Yep, we're good. We're good. Oh, it's like that meme where never mind. Anyways, I can't think of the names. It's like, hey, whatever. Was that the cat? I don't think so. What's the next one? 9th house. Mars in the 9th house. You gotta be a dreamer. Mars in the, you gotta dream. Also, you gotta figure out what's your end goal. Mars in the 9th house, what's your end goal? What's your end goal? And then the path to get there will probably become very clear. What's your end goal? Where do you need to be? What's the landing position? What's the target? Also a dreamer, to dream up the answer of the target, of making it to the target. Yep. And then 10th house, you need to figure out where you sit in the hierarchies. How are you going to use the hierarchies to your advantage? What are your disadvantages in the hierarchies? Figuring out how those hierarchies are structured, how they're built. What does that look like for you? All right, that's Mars in the 10th house. Mars in the 11th house, that's your social circles. That's like friends, people you don't even really know sometimes. Anybody that you talk to. I suppose technically this is an 11th house happening also. So maybe you're here to sit and learn about strategy too. Good for you. Ooh, yeah. Sometimes I have jokes, you know. Are they even funny though? I don't know. Anyways, back to you and Mars. Mars in the 11th house. Mars in the 11th house is going to be really like, you need to figure out where you sit in your social circles, and also like talking to other people might be helpful, or just going and sitting at a park. Literally like going out and having social interactions with people could help you figure out what your strategies are, or not talking to anybody and just being out in public. And like Mars in the 11th house, you strategize by people watching or being with your friends, which sounds very strange, but you know, that is true. Mars in the 12th house, you need to figure out what is being sacrificed. Mars in the 12th, because 12th house is a pretty serious placement for any placement. 12th house is really serious, but with Mars in the 12th house, sit and figure out what's being sacrificed. What is worth the sacrifice? How can you figure out how to not sacrifice? I mean, there's going to need to be a sacrifice of some kind, your energy and time, even just sitting and thinking about the strategy, you know? And how much have you sacrificed for your lessons of strategy? Also true. That also means when you're going through transitions in life, if you have Mars in the 12th house, if you're going through transitions in life, you're going to be able to claim victory and also attracting enemies. So say that you're going through like a glow up phase, or you've decided to make a transition, you're leaving one place and going to the next place. There's a lot of ways that that's applicable. That will more than likely cause you to have to strategize into your new thing, and at the same time protect what you have so that you do not overly sacrifice. 12th house has to do with our sacrifices and what we're willing to give up for where we're going. there's more to it because it's also our spiritual site as well, and like sitting with our spiritual practice and being in the spirit. So sitting with your, literally, like people who have Mars in the 12th house, divination, hello, pull some cards if that's part of your practice. Pull some cards, write in your journal, sit and meditate, connect with your practices to help you strategize for that too, and figure out, make offerings. That's hello, sacrifice. If you're make an offering if you have spirits in your practice that you offer to. If not, then it is make an offering to you. You're a spirit too. Make an offering to you. That'll help you strategize. Literally, if you just sit, offer yourself some incense, offer yourself a candle, offer yourself some coffee, some tea, some drink, some water, offer yourself some love. Offer yourself something too. That's gonna help you strategize. And, if you have spirits in your practice, that's also true. Offerings, sacrifices, it is. So those are the houses with Mars, and kind of like how you need to sit with strategy and what needs to be protected in each house. That is what you're also born to be, a leader in that space. And born to be leaders, see, that's why it attracts enemies, because born to be leaders, there's always an opposition to that position. There's always an opposition to a born to be leader. If you're born to be a leader, there's gonna be somebody who disagrees with the fact that you were born to be a leader. It just is. It just is. Did you claim your direction? That's one way to know if you're where you need to be with your Mars placement. Did you claim where you're going, or did somebody else claim it for you? Did you claim where you're going? Where you're walking, where your feet are falling, what you're talking about? Did you claim that, or did somebody else do it? And then figure out how to make sure that you have and you're not falling for others. Because Mars has to do with the born to be leader, this can also have to do with the institutions that we're a part of. We don't normally think about it like that because there's other houses that have more to do with our hierarchies and whatnot. But if you're just automatically born into the top of something, and you're automatically born into the position of a leadership position, and like that is some form of birthright for you, then understanding where in your life that system, that institution, being able to figure out even what institution that is. Has it even been institutionalized? With Aquarius, maybe not. Aquarius is pretty rebellious. And what system would you be rebelling from then? So figuring out really like, what is that position of power that you've been given? What is your natural position of power? And if you're able to identify really what is your natural position of power, then you can start to really think about, okay, well, who's come against me within that natural position of power, and understand, how did they come against you? Did they win? Were they able to claim victory in your life? And if they were able to claim victory in your life, studying their tools. And this is why I always advocate for going back and studying, especially with protection magic, going back and studying people who have done wrong in your life, pick up their tools, figure out if they're useful to you or not. And also so that you can identify other people like that coming through, so that you're not blindsided. It is. Some people are cruel to a fool. I don't agree with it. So let me keep my eyes open. That's how I feel about it. My gratitude, reverence, and love goes to you. Thank you for coming through, for hanging out. You didn't just hang out, you probably listened if you're still here. And I give my gratitude, reverence, and love to the indigenous spirits of the land where I sit, talk, walk, and stand, and where you are, that is true. And to the spirits of love, truth, and free, who are in the highest order there is, can, has ever been, and will ever be. And thank you so much for supporting me. If you want to subscribe, shout out. Keep on studying, keep on strategizing, keep on going. That's part of Mars too. You gotta keep going to keep growing. So that's it. I'll talk to you next time.